Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Diablo 4 Season 10 talk. With it all dropping in a couple days, I wanted to put together the usual quick overview video of the main aspects, details and things you need to know about so we can just get blasting right away. So let's just get started. First up, we need to talk about the Infernal Hordes, which has been reworked in this season. Each wave you're given an offering to further mod the ether and how the waves function, but it's a pretty tame selection, basically. They've now reworked them to offer a lot more valid choices, a variety. Things we've seen there are like soul spires, which will be a lot less common but worth more, or enemies that have double health but now you spawn goblins. With that, there's the new chaos enemies too, so at times we'll be given chaotic offerings instead of the normal 3, which will begin a chaos wave, introducing a pile of mechanics and telegraphs you have to dodge all at once while dealing with enemies like hellworms, spawning packs and defending masses from enemies, all kinds of mini objectives. Basically, chaos waves will be very rewarding but much more challenging and varied. But you know, from the PTR to launch version of this, they've made them a lot rarer because you'd basically always pick them. On top of that, we have the special new boss for the season, Bartok, known as the Lord of Chaos. This means after the final wave, you can then choose to go face the Fell Council or Bartok. The thing is, Bartok will consume Aether to even challenge 666 of it, but killing him will drop Chaos Armor, which is going to be another key point of the season. So if you're after that, he's going to be a great source, obviously. But before we talk about Chaos Armor though, there's another part of Infernal Hordes you should know about for leveling. That's the sort of baby version called Fleeting Hordes. Just like Infernal Horde compasses then, you'll find these Fleeting Compass versions. These will then send you to a Fleeting version that caps at 4 waves, and you have to deal with just 2 council members at the end instead. You'll do this for the massive chunk of XP involved, but the apparent very good rewards for early leveling journey, multiple legendaries for aspect options, a pile of manuals for tempering, resources for crafting, that kind of thing. So I'm sure you'll be doing your Fleeting Hordes whenever you find them basically, before we do get into proper Infernal Hordes in the endgame. But now we should definitely talk about Chaos Armor, a very impactful change for the season. You're going to be able to put uniques in completely new slots. So instead of having to have like a lidless wall shield, you could have it be on your leg slot, something like that. The thing is, this weirdly slotted unique that you now have gets increased powers compared to a normal one. So you definitely want the Chaos version compared to the regular of one unique that's possible. Their example of this was Fists of Fate, so attacks can randomly deal up to 360% more damage compared to the usual 300 top roll. And thankfully, they're always going to roll at their maximum power, and you at least get 1 greater affix on these, so that's ridiculously good. Chaos Armor is armor though, so Chaos slots are your head, chest, gloves, legs and boots. Those are the only 5 slots that you can have this Chaos stuff on. The Chaos version will always be a separate slot than the original, so if the unique was originally boots, it'll have to be any of the other 4 slots. Plus, you can't actually use the normal version and a Chaos version of the same unique at the same time. It has to be one or the other. So there's a universal list of Chaos Armors we can all use, and then you've all got usual class-specific ones. The list for all of this was revealed, so you can look it up if you want to look at your specifics, but here's the list at least of the universal Chaos uniques. The Banished Lord's Talisman tied to Overpower, that one can be a Chaos unique. You've got the Crown of Lucian, Endurant Faith, the Fists of Fate obviously, Flicker Step, the Godslayer Crown, Lockrun's Talisman, Mother's Embrace, Paingorger's Gauntlets, Exval's Corroded Signet. The list of possible class-specific Chaos uniques isn't small though, it's quite hefty. Like the Necromancer options, that goes up to 12. Moving on then, let's now talk about Chaos Rifts. These spawn a pile of those new Chaos enemies when you find them, but there's also telegraphed attacks like waves to dodge, so you'll have to definitely pay attention when you go near one. By dealing with these, we earn both seasonal currency and rep, so you want to go for them every time you see them. But you'd want that either way because they're giving great XP, they give resources like gem fragments for your gem crafting, that kind of thing. And apparently if you deal with one on torment difficulty, it then also has a chance to drop Chaos Armor, which is obviously, compared to dealing with Bartok, a lot easier. Where do you find them? Well, there's Helltides and Nightmare Dungeons. You'll just bump into them in Helltides, but for the Nightmare Dungeons you need to first have the special sigil affix on the actual sigil itself when you spawn the dungeon. It needs to say Chaos Rifts on it for that dungeon to have them, but you can get these special sigils for that from rifts you clear, like in the Helltide. But inside those special dungeon versions, you'll find a ton of those Chaos enemies and rewards, and they'll be a great source for fleeting compasses while leveling too. So yeah, we never really ignore these rifts if I haven't made that super clear. Next, we need to talk about our seasonal borrowed power, the Chaos perks. This time around, we're changing how our skills function rather than like adding a new power on top. You've got 4 slots in the perk menu with the usual different rarities of magic, rare, legendary, and unique. We'll level these up 10 times and can only have 1 unique perk equipped at any one time, whereas you can have as many of the others as you want. So no matter what class you are, you choose between the 12 universal perks and then from the 4 class specific ones on top. How do we unlock these? Well, it seems to be a mix of your rep and Bartok kills. Most perks seem to come from progressing your seasonal reputation then, while uniques require the first kill of Bartok in Torment 1 or higher. Then you've got the usual resource system tied to the perks, which basically means you spend that to upgrade the perks. Again, get that resource from reputation progression. But what are some examples of chaos perks? One great one would be Alter the Balance, the unique Necromancer perk. It turns your core skills into ultimate skills, making them free to cast, but they now have a 20-second cooldown. But on the other hand, your ultimate skills turn into core skills with no cooldown, but now an essence cost. This perk enables one of the strongest Necromancer builds for this season, a build that basically turns the Soul Rift Ultimate into a core skill that you begin to absolutely spam in AoE, playing it in a way that's actually going to be comparable to Blood Surge, which is pretty cool. But that's just, a unique perk. The more normal ones have kind of supporting effects, examples like these. We have Invigorating Attacks as a magic perk. So every 5 seconds, your next basic skill generates an additional chunk of max primary resource, but your basic skills now deal reduced damage. Of course, there are basic skill builds that wouldn't want to use this, but there are plenty of builds, especially in the early game, that are super resource starved, and this could be a way to give yourself increased resources early on. There's Accelerating Chaos. Damaging enemies has this % chance to trigger these chaotic bursts that deal damage, but then these bursts that hit enemies reduce a random active cooldown, so helping you with some CDR. Some might be worth it, might not. There's like Power Siphon. Your core skills deal increased damage, but also reduce your maximum current resource by 20 for 6 seconds. The reduction stacks but doesn't refresh, so do it over and over, that resource cost gets bigger, but then resets after the 6 seconds either way. Another cool example is Mad Guard. You can no longer go over 50% health, but you gain 5 to 10% maximum resistance to all elements, 20 to 40% armor, and 50 to 100% increased barrier and fortified generation. So for builds that want to be like low or critical health, this essentially helps you set that up and gives you even more rewards. One of the ones that seems very popular is Crazy Brew. Your healing potion is infused with the power of chaos, so when you pop it, you get 100% resource cost reduction, % increase to attack speed, % increased movement speed, but it does give your healing potion a cooldown. So yeah, they are pretty cool. They're going to greatly impact builds and create some new interesting options alongside the chaos armor potential that does similar. Finally, there's still new uniques being added this season, 1 per class, so here's a quick rundown of them. The Barbarians are going to get a new one-handed weapon, with its unique power being increased damage for each skill you have equipped, and an additional increase to that damage for 15 seconds when each one of those skills is used. So Druid gets some new pants, tying into their Raven summon. They deal increased damage, and then shapeshifting into a different form or using different companion skills will summon ravens to attack nearby enemies. This then can cause unkindness for 10 seconds, increasing the number of ravens summoned. Necromancer's getting a focus. Your basic skills are empowered. Damaging an enemy with basic skills causes them to take increased damage from your other basic skills. So, an actual basic skill build potential there for Necromancer. Rogue is getting a crossbow with an important mechanic to it. The power itself is basic and core skills that use this weapon now reload. Reload skills gain increased damage, and every second reload skill gains twice this bonus, which is a pretty cool mechanic to be adding. The information about reload is that you have a slight delay before you can cast the skill again, but the damage and reload speed benefits from your attack speed bonus. Next you have Sorcerer with a new ring. Its unique power is lightning damage leaves enemies magnetized, causing them to emit crackling energy and increase all lightning damage they take from you. If 2 magnetized enemies hit each other with a crackling energy though, they pull each other together, so a grouping mechanic. Lastly you have Spiritborn with some new gloves. The Protector can be invoked at range and pulls inward with its smashes. Enemies in its area take increased damage from gorilla skills, doubled while they are knocked down or a boss, tying in of course to your gorilla skills. Otherwise it's familiar stuff to be aware of. We've got the layer system for target, boss farming and drop farming, but be aware that the unique pool has changed this time, as they've rebalanced where uniques come from, taking things out of the Infernal Hordes and putting it into the layer system. So updating yourself on that should be worth it. Obviously, you're going to get the new seasonal quest line, and we talked about the rep system, which will be back in play again. Expect a resplendent cache at the end of that once more. The season journey will be very important. In the previous season, they made it harder, but with the rewards being a bit better. You should expect aspects and important rewards tied to the builds that are kind of pushing this season. Often when leveling, engaging with this is quite helpful. And of course, there's all kinds of class balance updates, all available in the patch notes if you want to get really into the details. But yeah, there you have it. Just some of the main details to know going into Season 10. I hope this overview was useful, and if it was, please do drop a like. We'll be covering all things Season 10 in proper detail though, so check back regularly. But until then, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.